Let's appreciate her.
Asante sana. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hello. This is one of the best times to present right after Mekula. So no yawning, no walking out. So this is very nice. This is ideal. So back to introducing myself. You can just go to the slide that has my photo. Great. So yes, my name is Joyce Awor. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, working with KNDI, registered with KNDI as a clinical nutritionist. I worked at Coptic for 3 years for clinical nutrition. After that, I left and I'm currently working at a pediatric clinic with a specialty doctor. And apart from that, I spend my good amount of time at KMTC teaching students there. Hi KMTC. Hello. Great. So I also teach KMTC students there. And part of my time I take doing videos on social media, educational videos, educational videos, please. And I've done a few interviews on mainstream media. So at the top of my slide, back to business. At the top of my slides, you realize there's Dad Select. That is my company. So I started my company just to give information knowledge out there. And this was due to my work at at Coptic Hospital. So the essential reason for the company is to give out information. So the topic that brought me here today is unlocking the power of gene editing for improved nutritional profiles. This is basically talking about GMOs, and we all have different perspectives or perceived perspectives on GMOs. And my disclaimer, as we all know, nutrition is a science, and we are constantly doing research. We are constantly reading books. So at the time of this presentation, whatever I present is as of today, or as at yesterday night. And whatever I present are as the specified dates. And this can be easily checked once you see the references at the end. So a brief introduction. We all know there's increased human population. And that gives a need of more food, and it has become necessary for increased production to maintain food security. So to give a definition of nutrition profiling, as the WHO 2015 tells us that it's a science of classifying and ranking foods according to their nutrition composition for reasons relating to preventing disease and promoting health. So our sole purpose as nutritionists is to prevent disease and promote health. So a person is termed as food insecure when they lack regular access to enough safe and nutritious foods for normal growth and development and an active and healthy lifestyle. That slide is incomplete. Okay, so what are the importances of doing nutrition profiles? Why do we need to do nutrition profiles in global health? One of the main reasons is for disease prevention. So once we do nutrition profiling, we are able to identify the presence of essential nutrients, micronutrients, and also the macronutrients, and this facilitates the promotion of balanced diets that contribute to disease prevention. The second significance is macronutrient adequacy. So once the nutrition profiling is done, it aids in assessing the macronutrient content of foods. We also get to understand that nutrition profiles helps in designing diets that will meet individual nutrient requirements in terms of micro and macronutrients, so we will be able to revert to avoid issues of anemia, osteoporosis, and even impaired immune function. The third significance is energy balance and weight management. So with nutrition profiling, we provide information about the content of energy in foods. And we know that overconsumption of energy-dense, nutrient-poor foods, this can contribute to obesity, and obesity will contribute to other cardiovascular events. The fourth significance is the public health policies and intervention. Once we do nutrition profiling, we are able to influence the public in terms of health policies and interventions that will be carried out by various health organizations. Our fifth significance is chronic disease management. So with nutrition profiling, we are able to assist healthcare professionals in designing personalized dietary plans that will align with the patient's or the client's medical conditions. And the final significance is global health disparities. So nutrition profiling helps identify any disparities in nutrient intake across various populations, and this information is very important when addressing global health inequalities and designing targeted intervention, as obviously to improve nutrition status in the vulnerable groups. So there's no nutrition or there's no science without maths, and we can't talk any further without talking about maths and the statistics. So we talk about the prevalence of food insecurity, prevalence of malnutrition. So we look at it globally. So we know people are affected by hunger, and that leaped by 150 million since the COVID-19 outbreak. And we got from 618 million in 2019 to 768 million in 2021. And those who were unable to afford healthy diets rose by 112. That took us to 3.1 million in 2020 alone. So that translates to almost a third, that is 29.3 of the world's population. And 2.3 billion people were moderately or severely food insecure in 2021. That was up from 25.4. So policy interventions to date are failing to reverse these trends. So we know about the conflict around Ukraine and the impacts of climate change, which are key drivers of increases in malnutrition, are still persistent. So in the next slide, this is just a representation of the prevalence of undernutrition. This is from Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO. So the darker the colors, I'm not sure if the slide is very clear, but the darker the colors, the higher the prevalence. So if you can somehow locate Kenya, you can see Kenya is quite dark compared to the other parts of the continent, talking about Africa. So that just tells us how the prevalence of malnutrition and food insecurity. So nationally, what are the numbers nationally? We have data from the Food and the FAO, which revealed that the rate of food insecurity in the country jumped from 50%, that was between 2014 and 2016, and now it's at 28% between the years 2020 and 2022. This is a 13% point increase. This pushed Kenya's level of insecurity to the second highest in the region, after South Sudan, which stood at 63.2%. This increase was from the increased inflation, the upsurge of international commodity prices, the persistence of unemployment, food inflation, and the increasing food import bills, not mentioning the extreme climate events. So we remember the locust invasion that came before COVID, before and during the pandemic. This was compounded by a prolonged drought, that was the year 2022, that went down as the worst drought in 40 years. So World Bank has stated that the prevalence of moderate and severe food insecurity in Kenya's population is at 72.3. So what are some of the impacts of food insecurity on public health? If we look at our friends from the Heart Organization, that's the next slide. Our friends from the Heart Organization, these are the cardiologists, are telling us that food insecurity often results in poor nutrition, as we know. And if you don't have access to properly balanced diets, that is the fresh foods, micronutrients, macronutrients, it will definitely affect your whole life. So as contradictory as it may sound, food insecurity and poor nutrition can lead to obesity. Yeah, some people who can't access or can't afford food may opt for cheaper, more convenient foods which are less nutritious, and that will lead them to obesity. So our friends from the Physician American College, they state that food insecurity is associated with a wide range of heart issues. We're on the next slide. Food insecurity is associated with a wide range of health issues, including higher risk of birth defects. We have high risk of anemia, low nutrient intake, cognitive problems, and also behavioral health problems among children. And for the non-senior adults, we have food insecurity being associated with lower nutrient intakes, higher rates of mental health problems, diabetes, HTN, cholesterol, and other chronic issues. So you might ask, what is the background of gene editing? Gene editing by a guy called Genek et al. In 2012 states or defines gene editing as a precise modification of an organism's DNA, enabling the addition, deletion, or replacement of specific genetic material. So there was a technique which was first described in 2012 called the CRISPR, Cas9, and it stands out as a revolutionary gene editing technique. This technique or system utilizes the guide RNA, that is the gene RNA, to target specific DNA sequences, while the Cas9 protein acts as a molecular scissors, meaning it cuts the DNA at the desired location, and the cell's natural repair machinery then fixes the break-in, results in precise genetic modification. That is one of the two main techniques that are used in gene editing. So we talked about the first one. The second one is the talents. This is the transcription activator-like effector nucleases. This is the other gene editing tool. Function similarly to the CRISPR Cas9, but it uses a different DNA binding domain. These talents consist of transcription activator effectors that are engineered to bind specific DNA sequences, guiding the nucleus to desired location for gene modification. So what does this gene editing, what are the challenges do they address? So the main challenges is the key nutrients that are enhanced in nutrition content of crops. These are the key nutrients are the vitamin A, iron, folate, and iodine. Our first few speakers spoke mostly about the iron, talking about how ladies lose iron every month. So we'll look at it at how it is being checked in the gene editing. So the key nutrients addressed: vitamin A. We all know what vitamin A does: vision impairment, if there's a deficiency, and also increased susceptibility to infections. That is basically your immune system is compromised. So there's golden rice, which is gene-edited crop developed through genetic engineering. So this represents a notable example of addressing vitamin A deficiency. This rice variant is enriched with beta-carotene. We know that is a precursor of vitamin A. So once you consume beta-carotene, it is converted to the active vitamin A component in the body, and that then provides a potential solution for vitamin A deficiency. The second nutrient is iron deficiency. We know that iron deficiency is a widespread nutrition problem and definitely can lead to anemia as also impaired cognitive development. So there's biofortification, which is achieved through gene modifications, which has been explored to enhance iron content, especially in areas where they use staple crops that give iron as the main nutrient. For example, genetically engineered beans expressing higher levels of iron have been developed to address iron deficiency in the regions that use beans as a dietary staple. So this is stated by Bibb et al. In 2014. The third key nutrient addressed is the folate deficiency. This is by Blancourt et al. In 2015. We know that folate deficiency during pregnancy will lead to neural tube defects in the developing fetus. And to address folate deficiency, also researchers have developed or explored genetic modifications in staple foods like rice, just to enhance folate levels. The fourth and final key nutrient addressed is the iodine deficiency, and we know deficiency of this particular nutrient leads to goiter, impaired cognitive development. So staple foods like rice again have also been targeted for biofortification with the increased iodine content through genetic engineering. So this is by Pendab et al. At 2015. So by doing all this gene editing, we have to come up with regulations. And we look at what are the regions doing in terms of regulations. So we have global organizations, that is the WHO. In 2021, they acknowledged that the potential benefits of gene editing in food, but it also emphasizes on the importance of safety and ethical consideration. It encourages member states to establish regulatory frameworks that ensure safety while fostering this type of innovation. So how about the USA, the United States? They are regulated by FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. So in 2020, the FDA stated that the regulatory approach is product-based rather than process-based. So basically, they're looking at the final product and not the process that the product undergoes. So if a gene-edited food product does not contain a foreign DNA, then the FDA will not subject it to additional regulatory scrutiny. But the key criteria is whether the genetic alteration poses any safety concerns or introduces allergens. So in 2020, the FDA updated on the FDA's policy on genome editing, emphasizing the importance of a risk-based approach, focusing on the characteristics of the final product rather than the process used to achieve it. So the EU, that is the European Union, this is from the Court of Justice in 2018. They will make a more cautious approach. So they subject the gene-edited foods to strict regulations. So in 2018, the Court of Justice ruled that the gene-edited crops should be regulated by GMOs. This decision was led to rigorous approval process and labeling requirements for gene-edited products. The Asia-Pacific region, we look at Japan and China. Japan regulates their gene-edited foods similarly to the conventional ones, so they do not contain foreign genes. So if they don't contain foreign genes, they're not subjected to any regulation. But China has adopted a case-by-case assessment considering safety and environmental impacts. So the second last region is the African Union and regional initiatives, where at the continental level, the AU is working towards developing a harmonized approach to biotechnology and biosafety regulations. It has a new partnership of African development, that is the NEPAD, which is working to involve initiatives to create a common biosafety framework for the entire continent. The initiative will strive to strengthen the capacity of African countries in biosafety regulation, including gene editing. And finally, back at home here in Kenya, we have updates from the National Biosafety Authority. So they oversee the regulation of genetically modified organisms. This includes the gene-edited crops. And their act as of 2009 established the NBA, that is the National Biosafety Authority, to ensure the safe development, transfer, handling, and use of GMOs. This regulatory process involves a risk assessment by the NBA to evaluate the safety of GMOs before they can be released to the environment or used commercially. So before we give any GMOs out to the public or commercially or even to the environment, we have to consider some ethical values. So these are the ethical considerations. There are like, I think, 5 or 6. So what is the importance of ethical consideration? 2 of the main importances is to protect human health and the environment. So there are robust ethical guidelines that are essential to ensure that the gene-edited products for nutrition improvement prioritizes human health and environment sustainability. So these guidelines should address any safety concerns for the public. It should do risk assessment, and it should evaluate a long-term monitoring of the edited organism. The second importance of ethical guidelines is avoiding unintended consequences. So once you've done gene editing, there might be unintended consequences. So this can be curbed by having ethical guidelines, which include thorough risk assessment and mechanism to prevent unintended consequences. What are the ethical concerns? There's unintended consequences of ecosystem and long-term effects on future generations. So we're talking about before you release the GMOs to the public, you should consider the unintended consequences in the environment, and also what are the long-term effects of future generations. Ethical considerations in terms of transparency and public engagement. For the public to be able to address or even positively take the GMO modified crops, there has to be transparency and public engagement, and this can be done by informed decision making. So this basically is the process of which is essential to foster informed decision making, which includes disclosing the methods used, potential risk and rationale behind specific genetic modifications. So we're talking about talking to the public, disclosing to them what methods you've used in gene editing, what are the risks, because there has to be risks, what are the benefits, what is the reasoning behind the specific genetic modifications that you used. So according to the CDC, the second one is the public engagement. So you need to engage the public, get various societal values, concerns, expectations that are related to the use of gene editing. So with everything we know, there has to be benefits and risks. So three main benefits is the improved health outcomes. So once we done gene editing, it allows the precise modification of specific genes related to nutrient content in food. For example, the enhancing the levels of essential vitamins and minerals in crops. By doing that, we contribute to improved overall public health and we address nutrient deficiencies. The second one is reduced malnutrition. Once we provide increased nutrition value in foods or crops, we provide a more nutrient-dense food supply, and this will this has a potential to reduce malnutrition and any associated health issues that come with it. The last benefit is enhanced food security. So once we improve crop resilience with gene editing, we are able to improve the yield and nutrition content, which contributes to enhanced food security. So this makes the crops resistant to pests, diseases, and environmental stressors that can lead to a more stable and reliable food production. So a few risks as well. There are three main risks that I highlighted. That is the unintended gene modifications, ecological concerns, and unintended consequences on biodiversity. So once you do gene editing of crops, the tools are not absolute, and off-target effects may occur, leading to unintended genetic modification. There's also ecological concerns, meaning once you expose the GMOs to the public, or rather to the environment, they may potentially impact ecosystems and the consequences of biodiversity that come to GMO. So we talk about the public perception of the GMO crops. What is the public understanding? What does the public understand about the gene-edited crops or foods? So these are normally influenced by individual knowledge. What is the individual knowledge from the public? What is the education level in terms of GMOs and the exposure to information? So while some individuals may have solid understanding of the science behind gene editing, others may lack awareness or have misconceptions. The other public concern is in regards to gene-edited foods will be primarily revolve around safety, ethics, and environmental impact. So you might find people asking themselves, what is the safety of the GMOs? What are the ethics, and what is the impact in the environment once you release the GMO foods? The other one is willingness to adopt. So willingness to adopt gene-edited products will vary among individuals, and it's influenced by factors of trust in regulatory bodies, perceived benefits, and cultural values. So if the public trusts the regulatory bodies like the FDA, the WHO, the CDC, all these regulatory bodies, if the public has trust on them, then there's a higher chance of willingness to adopt the GMOs. Their perceived benefits, are there any benefits of the GMOs, and do they supersede the risks? And also, what are the cultural values for the individuals? To bridge the gap between scientific advancement and public understanding, we have to employ effective communication strategies. There has to be transparent information sharing. So you have to be very transparent with the public in terms of safety assessment, the regulatory process that has gone through, that the GMO product has gone through. Communicators should emphasize the rigorous evaluation of gene-edited products before reaching the market. So before the crops get to the market, there has to be transparent information sharing. Then we have to engage with stakeholders. These are the scientists, the policymakers, the community leaders. We need to engage them and in the process of decision making, seek their input and enhance trust and understanding. Then the last strategy is tailoring messages to different audiences. We know there's a diversity of public perception, which is very important. So we need to tailor communication strategies to different demographic groups, taking into account their cultural, social, economic factors, and this can help address specific concerns and build a broader acceptance. So future prospects for GMO, biofortification, which can be employed to enhance the nutrition content of staple crops. We talked about anemia, vitamin A, iodine, and folate. So for example, editing genes to increase the nutrient content of rice and other cereals, which are known as staple foods in various populations. Then there's functional foods. There's future prospects for functional foods. So gene editing can be applied to develop GMOs with enhanced nutritional profile. So crops are increased nutrient content. There's improved bioavailability once the foods have been ingested, and therefore reduced levels of anti-nutritional factors. The third prospect is sustainable agriculture. Once we do gene editing technologies, the crops are able to be resistant to pests, diseases, and environmental stressors. That increases or rather reduces the food insecurity in the country. Then we have global food system and nutrition security as the last one. So we have gene editing technologies that are integrated into agriculture, and there's potential for positive impacts on global food systems and nutrition security. So once we enhance crop yield, once the crop yields enhanced, there's improved nutrition content, and there's increased resistance to environmental challenges. So in summary, we are saying that gene editing offers a promising avenue for improving the nutrition quality of crops and addressing global health challenges related to malnutrition. There's potential unintended consequences which can be curbed by doing thorough investigation to ensure that safety of gene-edited foods for human consumption. There has to be transparency and clear communication, as well as the intended benefits and potential risks to build public trust and acceptance. We know that there should be ongoing research, especially for long-term effects. What are the long-term effects of having gene-edited foods? And it's imperative to conduct thorough safety assessments, consider the ethical implications of the public. And as we navigate the future of gene-edited foods, ongoing research, international collaboration, open dialogue is essential. And this helps in shaping policies, regulation that ensure the safety and efficacy of these innovations. So I'd like to conclude in the words of Dr. Maya from American College of Physicians, who says that ending food insecurity needs to be a priority for policymakers, the healthcare community, and other stakeholders, and ensuring all individuals have access to feed themselves a nutritious and healthful diet is an important component of a just society. So these are my very few references for all that reading. And the last slide, I think we'll have question and answer at the end. But I'd like to thank you, all of you, for listening. And at the last slide, you can have my code just to feel free to scan it. You can see my website and what we are doing for the general public. Thank you very much for your time.
Let's appreciate her. She gets to sit down. The next speaker on stage before he comes. Wangapi wametembea Ukambani hapa? Wangapi wametembea Ukambani wakaona mambo iko huko? Kila kitu ya Ukambani kwamba inakuwaga imeiva na ni tamu. Sijui ni jua inatupikia mpaka warembo, mpaka salamu zao Wakamba wanasalimiana wacha. From greetings to their women to everything. So before I invite the next speaker, I request that you should start preparing your questions, for there will be a question and answer session. Uanze kupanga swali yako yenye utauliza. At this point, I want to invite Mr. Mutua Alex. Atatueleza. Maybe he'll have to explain to us from farm to fork about their mangoes, watermelons, na anything else yenye inapatikana Ukambani. Karibu sana.
Yes, it's good to see you. As the MC has introduced me, although I will correct one detail, but it's not a big deal. I hope I'm audible. Thank you. My name is Mutua Alex Moriera. That name is a bit confusing. Some say I'm a Kamba, some others say I'm a Meru. But the latter is more true. Yes, I'm a Meru. I come from Mount Kenya East. But I've toured Ukambani. It's a great place. I love it. I have friends over there. One is sitting just down here. Yeah, she's my union treasurer. Now, yes, there is my little profile. Yes, I'm a registered clinical nutritionist. I work at Kisii University as the clinical nutrition instructor, as well as an assistant lecturer. I have great interest in pediatric nutrition, having done a certified course in pediatric nutrition from Boston University. I am also an MPH student currently and DAAD scholarship. And as I mentioned that, I do a lot of mentorship in scholarship. I actually have an organization that I CEO as well as a founder in the space of scholarships and anything related to advancing studies. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to take on this topic, and I'm actually happy that I'm taking it after Miss Joyce, who has just set the pace. Hers was very comprehensive, a lot to take in. So I'll try to keep mine short so that our mind can hold. Research says we only concentrate for the first 30 minutes. So I'll keep it short and straight to the point. We can go straight to the presentation. Yes. So I'm tackling the future of foodborne illness detection, and this is from the farm to fork and beyond. I will just do a little introduction on what foodborne illnesses are. I would like to guide that, and this is not new to us, I'm very sure. This forms the basic of the microbiology that we learn at the very start of our training in all the levels that we might be coming from. So next slide. The previous one. You've jumped one. There's a previous line to that, kindly. I mean the second slide of the presentation. The introduction to foodborne illness. Let me just guide from where I am. So, foodborne illnesses is a common public health problem that is caused by consuming food or beverages that is contaminated with pathogens. And pathogens are harmful microbial organisms or bacteria, viruses, parasites, toxins, fungi, and so on and so forth. And the symptoms for these illnesses, foodborne illnesses, range from severe to mild, and they include vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal cramps, fever, and sometimes, in the worst case, death. Then there is every need to ensure that we don't get there. So then that means we need to detect these microbial organisms that cause foodborne illnesses. And that is where the detecting part of my presentation starts. So I would want to say that detecting the foodborne illnesses entails identifying the presence of pathogens or contaminants in food products. And this process has or entails also various methods and technologies that all in all ensure that food quality in the entire food system is ensured. I would like to take you through that slide on no, the one that was up. Yes. Now I've said we have technologies that are used to help in detection of the microorganisms. Some of them are conventional, others are emerging. And now for us to know where we are, we have to know where we are coming from. But before then, where are we? So the current challenges in foodborne illness detection. As a matter of fact, the foodborne illnesses cause a great, or they pose a great risk to public health globally. So they is a great global burden they pose. And this is a reference by WHO, or from WHO. And Kenya, we are not an exception. We face the same risk in that we have had and we still continue to have foodborne illness outbreaks. That is per MOH 2022. There are conventional technologies that we sometimes call traditional. And where we are currently, the situation is that they don't sufficiently offer real-time detection, characterization, surveillance of these micro organisms that cause foodborne illnesses. And they don't therefore guide with appropriate intervention. And that creates a gap in our ability to swiftly identify and mitigate food safety risks. Now, what are these conventional methods? We have one as microbiological testing. This one we know it as the basic testing, whereby it involves bacterial culture. So bacteria is cultured in the lab, and then tests follow through. There are other methods based on nucleic acid, and quickly, one of them is PCR. That is polymerase chain reaction, which detects DNA or RNA. The second one is isothermal amplification. Mostly this is used in biosensors, and it is used to detect also DNA, RNA, cells, proteins, and of course, that is how it identifies microorganisms. That is immunological assays or diagnostic immunology. And a perfect example, probably that you might have heard of, is ELISA, which is enzymatic linked immunoabsorbent assay. And it detects antibodies or antigens. And that's how it is able to identify as well as characterize the microorganisms. There is also chemical analysis, HPLC being the first one, which is high performance liquid chromatography. It's a widely used technology even up to date, and it identifies chemical components. Also, GCMS, that is gas chromatography, mass spectrometry. It analyzes volatile compounds. Yes, and the last one is physical inspection. This is the one we do mostly easily because it just involves checking food contaminants with your eyes. Yeah. Then why are we discussing the future? What is the problem with this conventional technology? Next slide. Just there. Just stay with me. The setbacks of the conventional methods, quickly, one is culture-based methods, take days for results. So because of the process involved, you can check down there how the process flows for most of the technologies. It is time-consuming and also labor-intensive. It requires skilled technicians who sit and say culture or isolate maybe for PCR, also do DNA extraction for the same, and so on and so forth, up until when we are having the results. Then they detect known pathogens. We know that, and I will echo the words of Joyce. She said that science keeps on changing. So pathogens as well, we know they keep mutating and so on and so forth. So the conventional means of foodborne illness identification or detection, they don't really identify the new strains of microorganisms. There are some that do, but mostly they don't. Then limited sensitivity and specificity. Of course, this has to do with the accurateness of these technologies. Now, the current next slide. The current status of foodborne illness detection. So the challenges, as we see, they still persist even currently. The challenges that I've just highlighted. But at the same time, we are having advancements in technology, in that currently there are emergence of rapid detection technologies, and some of these are just what maybe to build again on Joyce, something to do with genes. So one is genomic sequencing. It's an emerging and a very revolutionary pathogen identification technology. Also, blockchain is enhancing food traceability and transparency. We will see that in a moment. And we are having great progress, even beyond those two, in that we now have sensors. Also, we have Internet of Things, that is IoT, and we are having AI and machine learning as a way of the new way, which is also the future of foodborne illness detection. Also ongoing is collaboration for robust food safety measures, which is very important. I will emphasize that as I continue. Now, the future is here, and we will now check every of those technologies. One is genomic sequencing. Probably this might not be new again, but what exactly is this genomic sequencing? It is a next generation sequencing, in other words, and it is the process of determining the precise sequence of the nucleotides. That is the building blocks of DNA in the genome of an organism. And then, that being the case, it is serving as a game changer in the food safety. Genomic sequencing is enabling us to, one, do precision identification and characterization of pathogens. That is, we can exactly tell which pathogen has caused the foodborne illness, and as well characterize it down to the species. It is also enabling us monitor evaluation, and this is to mean we can track the evolution of the pathogens over time to understand changes in their genetic makeup and behavior. That is very, very important. Then swift outbreak tracing. We know for you to take care of any other outbreak, then it only makes sense if you go down to where it started. So the genomic sequencing is coming in handy for that. And we have on our next slide a case study, both a local and a global situation where genomic sequencing has been successfully used and has achieved all these displayed characteristics. So next slide. For the Kenyan case study, I'm waiting for the next slide, kindly. We have a case of salmonella outbreak mitigation by KEMRI, that is Kenya Medical Research Institute, in 2022. So there were several reported cases of foodborne illness which had salmonella-like symptoms. People having consumed a popular milk product. KEMRI was able to use genomic sequencing in swiftly revealing multiple strains of the salmonella, and they identified it as the Salmonella enterica sarova. And they also traced the farm where that milk had been collected from, which is something very interesting. The global case is a CDC tracing of an outbreak for romaine lettuce or lettuce. Yes. That one was an outbreak still, this was 2018, sorry. And they used genomic sequencing to trace the outbreak to the source as well, which was from Yuma, yeah, Arizona. So the impact that the genomic sequencing is having, as just to emphasize, is that because we can be able to characterize, identify as well as trace the origin, then recalls, and recalls is where a food product is taken back from the market to back to the industries for more measures. Then the future potential is it enhances surveillance. Then the next technology is blockchain technology, and I would say that it is a decentralized, transparent, and secure digital ledger system that records and verifies progress across the entire food supply chain. It enables one, enhanced food safety. Maybe before that, I would say for blockchain technology, every part of the food system, because we are discussing from farm to fork. Every step is independent. That is, if a mistake is done in one of the steps, then it can be traced to that very step, because the next step is very independent of the previous across the food chain. So then this blockchain technology has enhanced food safety, because food safety, in case of food safety contamination, blockchain enables quick identification and recall of affected products, also proactive risk management, real-time monitoring, and alerts allow for early detection of potential hazards in the supply chain, as I had said. Also, something very crucial with blockchain is its enhanced certification verification across the entire chain. People can be able to verify on the consumer end on how every step of the food processing or the food system happened. So it even offers an opportunity for you to scan and verify the product, its manufacturers, its transportation, all the way to where it is, or where it meets the consumer. In the next slide, it is a figure illustration. At the middle down, we have the blockchain. At the upper chain, we have all the key players in the food system. So consumer down there, right, very down, can be able to verify every step of the way how the food was handled. For the case study, we can go to the next slide. Of the blockchain technology, a Kenyan case study is the KTDA use of blockchain of tea to track tea from farm to cup. Yeah, interesting. Then the benefit of that is what KTDA has been able to achieve, is consumers can scan QR codes on tea packages to view details of tea estates, processing and quality certifications. The impact of that is restored trust in the authenticity and quality of Kenyan tea, leading to increased market demand. the QR codes, maybe to make it well understood. We've seen them everywhere. Even Joyce had displayed us. Yes, yes. So you can always scan those codes to verify the blockchain production. The global case is Walmart company. It is a global company. It partnered with IBM to use blockchain for tracking mangoes and pork in China. That is according to IBM 2019. And that resulted to reduce time to trace the origin of products from days to seconds, enhancing food safety and efficiency. Yes. The third technology is the Internet of Things, IoT, and sensors. So this one works hand in hand, whereby it's a network of interconnected devices, which we are calling things, that are embedded with sensors, software, and other technologies to collect and exchange data over the internet, providing better solutions from farm to fork. Internet of Things devices and sensors provide real-time monitoring. The sensors are put again from where the food is produced all the way to where it is transported. So the sensors can be able to pick on parameters that cause food spoilage, those that are atmospheric, and as well as the presence of pathogens, and then communicate that through the interconnected devices to the user. Also, it enables early contamination detection. So data is collected in real time, and therefore then detection is enabled early enough. And also it enhances overall food safety and quality. I cannot overemphasize on that. We can go to the next slide for a pictorial display. So at the start here we have food. Then sensors are put around where food is produced and all that. And at the other end we have an app that after sensors have picked on the parameters and it can tell that food is spoiled, then you will get a message on the app that food is getting spoiled. Lastly, under that, IoT is the case study. In Kenya, we have smart agri-food chain monitoring that has been implemented by Twiga Foods. I think we all know Twiga. It's a Kenyan technology company and is currently using the Internet of Things devices to monitor temperature and humidity in their storage facilities and during transportation as well. The benefits is actually, as discussed in the previous slide, early detection, surveillance, and the impact is improved quality of agricultural products and increased market access for farmers. A global case study is Maersk company. Probably we've all seen trucks labeled Maersk. It's a global shipping and logistics company. So then in that they deal with food as well. And they have been using IoT devices to also track their cold chain storage. So they monitor their storage facilities for their perishable goods. The impact is significant reduction in food safety, in food waste, and improved product quality and consumer safety. Lastly, though that slide is a little bit dark, No, just the one you are on. The picture behind the faint writings that you cannot see is an AI. We are no longer new to AI, and if you're here and you're new to AI, I am sorry on your behalf. So AI is artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence has come with also machine learning. And to maybe simplify that, I would say that artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence processes by computer systems. So here, computers act as humans with the intelligence of humans. And what is special with that is that they are able to handle big data than even the human brain. So in a nutshell, people train AI using the language models and gives it data on when and how food spoilage happens, and then they say put that AI into the foodborne illness detection or pathogen detection system, so that it can tell. The good thing, it can tell the pathogens present, that is identification. It can characterize them. It can also give real updates, yes, and monitoring in real time. Maybe what I will stress on is the ability of the AI to identify risks in foodborne illness even before they occur. Because it is a human intelligence machine, it is able to do that efficiently. The Kenyan case study of AI is by a company called FarmDrive. It's driven by Safaricom. It uses AI for crop monitoring and risk prediction. So AI algorithms analyzes satellite imagery of weather data to predict crop health, pest infestation, and potential risks, enabling farmers to take preventive measures. The impact that FarmDrive has been able to achieve is the AI-driven approach improves crop yields, reduces losses, and ensures food safety. The global case study is the Nestle. Probably we know of Nestle Kenya. Nestle is a global company. It also uses AI in product quality assurance. So it uses AI algorithms to analyze product images to detect irregularities such as defects or foreign objects, which might lead to contamination. On the next slide. As I wind up, the future directions and recommendations. So we are talking of the future of detection. Then how do we shape the future? These technologies that we've just seen, as compared to the conventional methods, offer a glimpse into a future where foodborne illnesses are minimized, if not eliminated. Collaboration between stakeholders is crucial to maximize the potential of these innovations. And from this presentation, we can have the following recommendations. One is policymakers to invest in research and infrastructure for widespread adoption of the new technologies. Then researchers, and we have them here, and the upcoming ones, should explore interdisciplinary approaches to tackle food safety challenges, to keep evaluating detection of technologies, the food industries, food safety regulators, and also the entire food supply chain should employ the emerging technologies in foodborne illness detection. Stakeholders, and these are many, they should embrace collaboration in promoting the revolutionary foodborne illness detection technologies and ensure safeguards for transparency and accountability in food systems. And lastly, to you, or to all of us, food, nutrition, and dietetics students, you are already in the future, so learn it and act it. Lastly, in my conclusion, the future of foodborne illness detection is bright and promising. And by harnessing and embracing the power of genomics, that is genomic sequencing, blockchain, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, and also advancing the already conventional techniques available, we can safeguard public health through optimizing responsible, accountable, reliable, efficient, and sustainable food safety, and ensure sustainable food systems. Next. That is my references. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. Together, let us work towards a future where every meal is safe, nutritious, and sustainable. That was my time. Thank you.
Let's appreciate him as he gets to sit down. Asante sana. As he was talking about foodborne illnesses, either out of experience ama nini, kila mtu hapa I think ashaijipata. Ushaibadilisha plug kwa mutura, ukajua kitu ilikupata baadaye. Ushaijaribu? Usijaribu, itakuwa bala. Ni sawa? So next on stage, I'm going to invite the next speaker, who is going to tell us more about malnutrition, Madam Lilian Mumina. Let's clap for her as she gets on stage. Hapa wale wakatakata tafadhali tusikize, tujue mahali malnutrition inatoka and how to end it. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Mechoka. Sijali changamkeni. So my name is Lilian Mumina. I'm a registered clinical nutritionist. I am also the national treasurer of the Kenya Union of Nutritionists. Umesikia Kunad? So Daktari emphasized that mtu asiwadanganye that there is no future in nutrition, because we are working effortlessly day and night to ensure that mkitoka hapa kuna mahali mnaenda, si ndio? So I'm going to talk about nani hajasikia juu ya KUNAD, Kenya Union of Nutritionists and Dietitians. Nyote mmesikia? Mmesikia nini? Ati? Nothing. So umesikia nini? Kama umesikia nothing, umesikia nini exactly? Anyway, as he gets my presentation ready, we can have a kidogo discussion on malnutrition in Kenya. You're the students, you have the statistics. How is the situation in the country? Someone, siogope. Hakuna kuchapwa Kenya siku hizi. How is the situation of nutrition in the country? Daktari told us that we have inadequacy when it comes to professionals, alafu watu wengi wanasema nutrition haina kazi. So how does that merge with the nutrition situation of the country? Prof asked us to be always asking questions. Kama uwezi uliza swali unajibu, si ndio? You people, are you serious? Are you listening? Anyway, so situation sio mzuri. As we understand, there's persistent rates of malnutrition, and we understand serikali yetu ya Kenya Kwanza iko na bottom-up approach. The bottom-up approach So the Kenya Kwanza manifesto is all about bottom-up. So solving problems from the core root. And that is what I'm going to discuss about today. But also, as nutritionists, tunafaa capitalize on that, because the community is where the problems are at before they come to the hospitals. And all of us want to run to the hospitals. We don't want to deal with the root problems. My other colleagues or researchers have emphasized on the importance of, Joyce talked about the importance of GMOs and ensuring that they are safe for food sustainability. Alex emphasized again on the importance of using technology to capture the problem before they become a problem. So as the human resource in nutrition, we are supposed to ensure that we prevent and we reduce these complications before they come to our hospitals. Because as it is, we are already overburdened by hospital admissions. We are overburdened by diseases imepanda, both communicable and non-communicable. The situation in the country is not as pretty as we would want it to be. And Dr. talked about us having inadequate staff in relation to the Kenyan population. But you see our policy makers, that is the ministry, our county governments, our parliamentarians, are refusing or wanakataa kusikia that nutrition changes need to be made when it comes to the human resource to ensure hizo cases zenye hazipatikani zinapatikana. Let me ask you, do you think the community health promoters was a good idea? It was launched recently by the Ministry of Health and the Kenya Kwanza government last year, October 20th. Mmesikia juu ya CHPs? Do you think it was a good idea? You don't think it was a good idea? Why? It's a great idea. The problem is the execution of the idea. That is the main problem we have with the current problems. I don't know what's happening with my presentation. Ama niwasome. So if you want to know more about KUNAD, unaweza niona after the event. Okay, I'm being told to tell you about it. So this is our young union. I am the national treasurer, as I have said. My SG sends his greetings. What is a union? Okay. Mmesikia kuna Kendsa, kuna KNDI, na sasa tunakuja na union. So we have different branches or different organizations that make a profession stand. There's the association, like we have NAC Kenya, we have Kendsa, and we have Speak Society that work on ensuring that professionals are up to date. And now we have the Student Association to make sure that students are also in line. Mnaelewa kitu zinaendelea, si ndio? So that is the work of the associations. They take care of the welfare and making sure that career advancement, training, iko sawa. Then we have KNDI, who is our regulator. We all know about KNDI. They come in to ensure that the standards of practice, standards of training, standards of everything matters nutrition are supposed to be taken care. And then we have a union that fights on the labor relations. Basically, when you come to the field, the union is supposed to make sure that the terms that you meet there are fair, they meet the constitution of the land, and they are also at par with the human rights. So it is your right as a Kenyan to be employed. It is your right as a Kenyan to have fair remuneration, progression, like training, education, exposure, all that. Those are your rights. So that is what the union does. And apart from that, we champion for employment, we champion for, what else? Policy change. We make people accountable. That's why maybe if you have seen any of us, we don't shout. We do it in a good way, but if we are needed to shout, we are definitely going to shout. But we are very peaceful people. So my presentation is basically on community empowerment. And Dr. said that asked about the index students in the room. Akasema half of us are not indexed. You see, I don't want to use bad words. It's necessary for you to be indexed and to have a license. That makes you stand out from that person on social media who wants to call themselves a nutritionist and a health and wellness doctor. So, because you see, when you are licensed, you have professional code of conduct that can actually be protected. And if you're not licensed, we can actually tell you that you're a quack. And union represents professionals. So unasikia? That is where we come in. Union represents professionals. So vitu zingine, as I call them, they are necessary evils. So make sure that you're indexed, make sure that you're licensed, so that when you go outside there, we're not just being asked, who are your people? Who are you representing? We have like professionals who've been trained, who've been licensed, who have been given the capacity and the ability to go take care of Kenyans. That is why we have all other councils. We have nursing councils, we have clinical officers, we have the KMDC, we have the lab tech. These orders exist to ensure professionalism. So let me just start. I'll be very brave. I think that's a stronghold. When I'm talking about things that I like. I love being a nutritionist, by the way. People should actually love it. I was those people who thought it was a mistake, it was an accident. But over the few years, I've come to realize it's a great calling. And as Prof said, when you go out there and you're making an impact, it makes an impact in your life as well. So don't be ashamed of being a nutritionist. Be proud. We are working to make sure that all of us are well taken care of. Of course, lazima kutakuwa na hiccup hapa kule, but vitu zitasonga, si ndio? So let's talk about community empowerment and why it is important. So my presentation is very simple. It's basically the introduction of community empowerment. I will also go briefly on the case studies successful community empowerment and how to actually do it and why it's necessary. So, okay. So, a slight overview. That was the malnutrition situation in the country. And you see how bad it is. Over the years, we have had persistence. Now we have the triple burden of malnutrition, where we have overnutrition, undernutrition, and the hidden hunger, what we call micronutrient deficiencies. Unfortunately, with the advanced technology, human resource, Kenya has a lot of challenges, and that is why we actually applaud the food systems integration of tackling malnutrition, because they're going to take care of the different causes of malnutrition, the underlying, the basic. You're still students, you understand all that. So the intertwining causes of malnutrition, not just specifically the dietary aspect, because we have agriculture, we have hunger, we have climate change, we have technology. All these can be harnessed to reduce and to work on the nutrition situation of the country. So that is the overview of malnutrition. I have a graphical representation on the next slide. So that is how the nutrition status of the country. That was a picture of, or a graph of the nutrition situation for the last few surveys from the Kenya Demographic Health Surveys about malnutrition in children under 5 years. As Dr. said, in the country we are biased towards child nutrition and maternal nutrition, because that is what our donors want us to talk about. And this is another challenge, because when the government or in the parliament does not allocate resources for nutrition, we cannot actually start targeting the problems that we have as a country. We are forced to target or to work on those problems or those things that our donors deem fit. That is why we have a lot of data and material on malnutrition for children under 5 and MCH. So why community empowerment? Why is it important? As I have said, it all stems from the community. Before it gets to the hospital, where we are going to treat and manage, it has long been rooted in our communities. So community empowerment basically works on these 5 pillars. That is basically assessing community needs, community engagement, fostering that community engagement by promoting local ownership, to ensure that these people are giving us the solutions according to their local problems. And then it also emphasizes on the importance of partnerships and collaboration, both multi-sectoral and the partners. And also, of course, we have the monitoring and evaluation, where most of us should also be creating interest. So the next slide is on, as I have said, community empowerment has actually been championed for in the recent past because of the significant strain of malnutrition to the Kenya's health system. So we have over, under, and micronutrient deficiencies, and also it has also been shown to reduce healthcare costs, because when you prevent the diseases before they come, like for instance, prevention of cancer is way cheaper than treatment and management of cancer. So when you prevent it, you're going to reduce expenditure that would have been otherwise used in those hospitals, and the other one is productivity loss. Malnutrition, the stunting, there's a study that was done by WHO that showed that stunting rates and wasting in children translated to lower productivity later on in life. So when we work on that, we are definitely working on improving productivity for our masses. And then why community, at the next slide, there was this study that was done that showed the costly vicious cycle of malnutrition and disease occurrence. Our syllabus has that vicious cycle of poverty and malnutrition, and we also have, you guys do communicable diseases, there's that vicious cycle of malnutrition and disease. So in Kenya, we are not only targeting malnutrition and disease, we're also targeting intertwining levels of inflation, economic disparities, and all that. So it's quite costly, and they give us some of the things that we can be doing to ensure that we reduce the occurrences of malnutrition, to prevent the occurrences of the communicable and non-communicable diseases. One of the things they emphasize on is in investment in nutrition-targeted approaches, collaboration of the different stakeholders, studying and research, and then development of tailored nutritional intervention, as well as evaluating the impact of the already existing programs and such. And the last one is ensuring that we have ensuring that we have pathways that support community engagement. So I am going to skip on the importance of community empowerment because I've talked about it before I started this. It's cheaper, it's affordable, it promotes engagement, it promotes local ownership, and there are studies there as well. And I'm going to talk about the key strategies that we can use as a nation, or that have been used to promote and their impacts to promote nutrition. So we have education as the first strategy. This is where you go to the community, you educate them on the importance of nutrition, importance of dietary diversity, importance of organic farming, importance of all those things that affect nutrition. And this is where I started by asking if you thought CHPs was a bad idea. Actually, in an ideal world whereby all our professionals will be absorbed, we will not have enough to go to the community to do the community work. But unfortunately, fortunately, because the government is refusing to ensure that it does the right thing, we have to have CHPs at the moment and unemployed nutritionists. But that will change. So the next thing is fostering behavior change. And I'm going to talk about the importance of behavior change. You're not telling someone to do something and actually them doing it, there are two different things. Kwambia mtu afanye kitu na yeye mwenyewe kuifanya ni mambo mawili tofauti. People are resistant to change because change is hard and change requires a lot of mindset shifts, a lot of body changes and such. And the body fights us. So as we're also trying to fight for the community to change towards their behavior, we're also trying to push the government to ensure that they're also changing their behaviors and attitudes towards community empowerment strategies that actually target nutrition. Stand down. And then this will definitely have impacts on improved nutrition outcomes for the society. It will actually help us in reducing the figures, the persistent figures. It will also help us because when these outreaches are actually done in the right way, we can actually, there is early detection of these conditions that we rarely talk about, because geriatric nutrition, there's the adult malnutrition, there's the adolescent malnutrition, and many other things. So that will be really, really good. So why would Kenya adapt community empowerment as a strategy to reduce malnutrition? These are case studies that have been done in other African countries. We have Ghana, it was done in Ghana. Yeah. So there's a researcher that is called Aguayo, and he demonstrated remarkable success in combating malnutrition through community-based intervention. That was in Ghana, as well as Senegal and Malawi. So this is something that can actually work in Kenya. Send on. Because if it worked in our neighbors, it can definitely work in the country. So how can we make community empowerment work for us? As I said, there's partnerships and multi-sectoral approaches in community empowerment. And Kenya recognizes the importance of partnership and multi-sectoral approaches in addressing malnutrition. By leveraging expertise and resources of diverse stakeholders, including government agencies, non-governmental organizations, CBOs, and the private sector, Kenya aims to empower communities and improve nutrition outcomes. This was according to the MOH, the Ministry of Health. And then collaborative initiatives such as Scaling Up Nutrition, a movement, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, facilitate coordination and alignment of efforts towards common nutrition goals. So partnerships and collaborations are inevitable. And this was demonstrated by also another very good researcher called Jonas, who examined the challenges and the opportunities in scaling up community-based nutritionist intervention, highlighting the need of rigorous research and partnerships to address malnutrition effectively. This is why conferences like this are important, because when we come together, we highlight problems that we did not even know existed. Another strategy that can be used to ensure that we promote community empowerment is on localization of the community programs. You see, when you own something, when you feel like you own something, you see the students, like this is a student's thing. You own it, it's yours. You're more likely to participate in it, you're more likely to be innovative towards it, and you're more likely to actually plan and want to be involved. That is the first thing. That is why localization is important, because it empowers locals to drive the agenda and advocate for their specific community's need. The second one, it helps in funding. Sometimes you might not get the funding or the resources that you need to do several activities. But you see, when the community, when you own it, like let's say when professionals we own it, we can have like a weekly or a monthly or a quarterly challenge whereby we visit children's home, we talk about nutrition, we teach those people, caregivers who are taking care of such institutions where malnutritions are persistent. So that is how it helps. And then some of the innovative community approaches that have actually worked. We have the school health and nutrition program. You have seen the food for education programs in Nairobi County. You have seen the Dishina County program in Sakaja, whereby he's feeding children in schools. And this is also aimed at promoting learning as well as tackling malnutrition in the lower socio-economic situations. Not the slums, the slums, but we don't like to call them that. Most of Nairobi is like that. So, another thing that can be done is extensive campaigns and collaborations on community engagement, which are currently ongoing by the Ministry of Health. I've said it's a good idea. The problem is the strategy, because they're not involving the right professionals. So the Kenya has adopted integrated approaches that link agricultural interventions with nutrition education and food security initiatives. This is aimed to improve dietary diversity and access to nutritious foods. And the government of land, Kenya Kwanza's manifestos, actually promotes one of their core mandates is UHC, which promotes, protects, and prevents health for the citizens. So their main approach is definitely community empowerment, and they are doing that through training of these CHP workers. They could have built on capacity on our existing nutritionists, but they chose to do that. It is well. They are also coming up with not localization, like where they are taking Nyumba Kumi. What is the name of Nyumba Kumi na Kizungu? Okay. They are using the Nyumba Kumi, the Nyumba Kumi plans to help us in identifying and in promoting nutrition and health. So that's and then of course we have initiatives like whereby we are encouraging fathers to be involved in nurturing children, in taking care of the families, taking their breastfeeding, watu wanapewa paternal leaves and such things. All these are some of the community approaches that the country is using. So I have a table on that, but we'll get to that. So this does not come with challenges. Community empowerment is only cheap and very easy on paper. Kwa ground vitu haziko hivyo. So some of the challenges that we have is capacity building. That is the main challenge that we have in the country, capacity building, whereby we have healthcare workers and the frontline healthcare workers, nutritionists included, not being involved in this continuous learning education. You see, the country, our country has, one of the challenges that we have in this country is lack of priorities. We prioritize the wrong things at the right time. Currently, we have CHPs, which would have been a good idea, but it would have worked best if they had nutritionists on board. Because that is basically going to teach people the importance of nutrition. Who's going to detect malnutrition out there if it's not a nutritionist? So when you have people who are not well skilled, well equipped, doing the right job, then you'll have bad results, inevitably. So that is our main challenge. And also there's a lot of problems when it comes to integration and coordination between the relevant stakeholders or organizations. This is why you will see UNICEF and FAO concurrently, like at the same time, running almost the same project. Because there's that clear lack of interlinks between this institution. That is bringing more problem because they end up duplicating activities. The right thing, the wrong strategies. And then another thing, of course, we have the social determinants, socioeconomic determinants, whereby there's a lot of we want to target the immediate causes of malnutrition. We don't want to, our community empowerment strategies should not be geared, all of them should not be geared towards detection and referral. Currently, the Ministry of Health is actually targeting detection of diseases and referrals to the already existing burdened hospitals that we don't have resources to actually take care of. We should actually diversify these resources, these activities to tackle the underlying causes of malnutrition. Zile za audience zenye ziko huko juu kwa chain. And then, of course, there's data monitoring and evaluation. There's very limited data in terms of nutrition. That is where we are still using Western solutions to solve our local problems. So maybe a challenge as we continue with schooling, can also try to work on publishing. Prof offered a platform for publishing articles on nutrition. Let's be out there, let's have our voices heard. Because if we don't have data, we can't quantify anything. We don't have anything to argue with. We'll just be told that this worked in Europe or UK, and we have to adapt it in Kenya, whereby is obesity one of our core problems really? How big is our obesity currently? It's only prominent in urban centers. But because we use data on Western world, our presentations will definitely eliminate obesity. And it will undermine things like anemia, which are really persistent. That's a problem. Anyway, it shall be well. So the next table is on some of the community projects that are currently, some are still currently being done, and some have been done to elevate or to reduce malnutrition in the country. Don't worry, I have references for all this. So We have projects from FAO, we have projects from the Ministry of Health, we have projects from all those organizations that I talked about. And of course, our pillar or our anyway, we need to the ministry and the government needs to make sure that it's promoting and protecting nutrition. So some of the possible solutions to such the challenges that I've talked about, of course, we have strengthening training programs for community health volunteers and community health promoters, to enhance coordination mechanisms at national, county, and community levels, to ensure synergy and collaborations among relevant sectors and organizations, to develop joint work plans by partners and governments to reduce on duplication. And then we also have strengthened data collection, monitoring and evaluation systems to generate evidence for program adjustments and resource allocation. I'll tell you a big challenge that I face. This is an individual challenge. When I am there trying to reason with, let's even talk about the DG of health, about the importance of allocating resources for nutrition from the ministry or from the parliament. Then they'll come tell me there is no relevant data that shows the importance of adding onto the already donations. Then they will ask you, if I give you this, how much am I going to give? You tell them, if you give me this, I'm going to give you this. They come again to you and tell you, but the so-and-so organization has been doing that. Why has it not changed? It's paramount for us to start loving. You know, even if it's a story, as Prof was saying, even if it's a story, document it. Have it written down. Write your story about why you went to such a place and there was persistent malnutrition. What are some of the things that you think should be done to reduce on those numbers? That will help us have readily available data. And again, don't write stories that just stories are jabba. Let them be real. Let them be realistic stories. So one of the core challenges that I'm going to talk about is monitoring and evaluation, because as nutritionists in community empowerment projects, we go there to actually track on nutrition indicators. You see, that's our core business in this empowerment project. But again, our core business is fostering change for ground. So as we go and calculate data and check on the indicators and show that this was this aligned with this and this hypothesis, we also make sure that we are doing our core business. So I'm going to talk about monitoring and evaluation and why it's important in community empowerment projects. And what WHO and UNICEF, they have showed the importance of MNE in ending malnutrition. When you track and target those indicators, diversity scores, what indicators do we have for nutrition?